This is the Rays POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Tampa Bay Rays, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Rays reaction to every single game. My name is Jonathan Shields. Make sure you guys go follow me on Twitter at Johnny10Shields. Tough one today for the Rays as they fall to the Orioles 5-1. In this one, we're going to talk about how the offense was slowed down. We're talking about Littell. I mean, he gave you kind of what you want out of a starting pitcher. Gave you another quality start. He was solid once again. Talk about how I thought the Rays really outplayed for most of the game. We're going to look ahead to see what the Rays can do to bounce back tomorrow. But first, we got to talk about how I think the Rays missed out on a ton of opportunities in this game.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Early on is when I kind of felt like the Rays started missing out on these opportunities. And, you know, in the first, the Rays kind of go down in order after Josh Lowe walks, Brandon Lau, grounds into the double play, and then Yandy gets out. But right in the second inning is when Aranda singles. It was a great at-bat. He tracked that pitch down, sent it out. And I also liked him being aggressive going for second, which was a great play. He gets out. But then the very next play, Junior gets a hit. So it would have been first and second, no outs. And it's like already it feels like the Rays are really putting together really good at-bats against Kramer, but they kind of got nothing to show for it. And then obviously the Orioles get on the board in the top of the second inning, which is why even more in the bottom of the second, I feel like the Rays kind of let one get away right there. And then in the fourth is obviously when the Rays scored. And again, I mean, not to be greedy, I felt like the Rays could have had more. I mean, they scored and then they still have first and second, one out, and they only got one in right there. And I thought that was another one, just missed opportunity in right there. And they really made Kramer work. He threw 30 pitches at inning. They're just missing. I swear, if Taylor Walsh had some more pop in his bat, he would have 3 home runs tonight. And he came up in one of those at bats. But it's just so in those first 4 innings, I really felt like the Rays missed out on just 3 opportunities right there, right off the bat. And then we get to our turning point. And which feels like, honestly, I felt like there's 2 turning points in this game, but we'll combine them into one, and we'll talk quickly about Zack Littell.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
I always preach on the shutdown end. The shutdown end after you score, I think, is so critical to building momentum. So after the Rays do score, that was a great at-bat by Brandon Lau as he continues to stay hot. And the Rays score. They could have gotten more, but it's okay. They got one. And then, boom, right away with 2 outs, Zack Littell gives up the home run. And I literally wrote down, I was like, it's the mandatory Zack Littell homer, right? It's going to happen every game. I mean, he's given up 22 this season. It's honestly just not acceptable to me. But, I mean, whatever. He's a contact pitcher. And then in the 5th, the Rays can't answer. And then one of the other turning points, it really felt like that Littell was on a roll where he gets the first 2 outs, no problem. And then with 2 outs, the Orioles' next 3 reach, and they make it 3-1. And that was kind of just like another gut punch, right? And then in the 6th, you get the leadoff man on. I really felt like, this was the spot. You have Yandy coming up against a lefty. Brandon Lau does just enough to get on. We know Lau has really struggled this year against lefties. Yandy comes up against the lefty, and Yandy's going to be sandwiched in between Brandon Lau and Jonathan Aranda basically all this season. And with Josh Lowe hitting in front of him, he's going to see a lot of left-handed pitching. And I just didn't like his at-bat. I mean, he gets 2 fastballs blown by him. He takes the next fastball, fouls off another, and then it was really good sequencing by the Orioles pitcher, and he throws a changeup to get it off the end of the bat for Yandy. But Yandy's a guy that I feel like if lefties really won his career, but this year he's hitting lefties. He's only hitting 219 against lefties compared to 282 against righties. It's just not good enough for a guy that's going to be sandwiched between the Rays' 2 best left-handed hitters. Compared to last year Yandy hit 346 against lefties. So that is a drastic fall off from last year to this year. And I just looked at the numbers right before this, but I knew there was a drop. I didn't realize there was going to be more than 100-point drop. And it's something that is going to need to change for Yandy if he really wants to, to propel this Rays offense. I mean, he's hit over 300 against lefties the previous 3 years. And this year, I mean, he's hitting 219, and that's going to drop after the stats from this game get updated. So I think Yandy and Josh Lowe are the 2 biggest keys in this lineup because like I just said, Yandy's going to see a lot of left-handed pitching. He needs to hit better against lefties than 219. Like, he needs to hit 260, 270 against lefties. He just has not looked good in and he's going to get a ton of opportunities. And then, so after the Rays kind of got that gut punch in the top of the sixth, they can't respond in the bottom of it after they get the leadoff man on. And I really didn't think they did a good job in that inning, even providing pressure, if that makes sense. You get the leadoff guy on, and he just kind of gets stranded there. And, once Yandy kind of flew out off the end of the bat, you get Aranda striking out on high heat, and then Junior on the first pitch, grounded right, and would have been a double play if there wasn't 2 outs. And then, boom, right away, the Orioles tacked back on. It's like the Orioles were really good in these positions with runners in scoring position, really good with, kind of tacking on when they need to. And the Rays weren't. The Rays couldn't get that run to, make it close. And then again in the bottom of the seventh, the Rays get their leadoff guy on. And then I liked pinch hitting for Jansen. He popped out on the first pitch. It was tough. And then Wallace does a really good at bat, gets first and second. And then I love this one by Cash by putting in Morel, because you put in Morel in the 9 spot. You're not going to bring in a righty to face Morel because you have Lowe and Lau coming up right after him. So he's going to face a lefty. And, it just didn't pay off for him. But, I like I like the move there. And that was another one. You get first and second. It's still 4-1 with 1 out. You got to find a way to scratch at least 1 across, make it a little bit more interesting. And then, even in the bottom of the 8th, the Rays got another guy on. I mean, the Rays had traffic on the base pass all night, but, they just couldn't, capitalize on those opportunities. And that's why the game ended up being 5-1. When the Orioles got opportunities, when the Orioles got men on base, they executed. And the one that sticks out was with 2 outs when they did in the 6th, and then again in the 7th. Once again, 2 out hitting with Gunnar Henderson, left on left. And then right when they left Montgomery in to face him. And what are you going to do? You're going to take him out? It's left on left, like he's going to face him. I knew right away Henderson was going to get a hit. Not to mention he was due for a hit because on his hitting streak. But Gunnar Henderson has also been like a Rays killer. At least maybe I don't know what the stats are, but to the eye test, he's been ridiculously good against the Rays. But so to me, I just kind of knew a hit was coming there. And then it ended up coming. That was another just like gut punch for the Rays. But look, this is not a loss where obviously you're saying, oh, red alarms, everything's terrible, blah, blah, blah. It's just not like, the Rays are in a spot where, they can drop one of these as long as they bounce back, right? The Rays, when they're on their stretch, and they're technically still on this stretch, right? They're still just 19-7 since May 20th. The Rays did a great job of not losing back-to-back games. And when they did lose back-to-back games, they routed off with 3 straight against the Mets right after it. But the Rays need to not let this turn into losing the next 2 games against Baltimore, right? They need to stack this and put out a really good effort tomorrow. And in the grand scheme of things, the Yankees ended up losing. They haven't scored in like a million years, it feels like, for them. The Blue Jays actually came back and won. They hit back-to-back home runs to walk off Arizona, which is tough. But, it doesn't hurt you in the grand scheme of things. We got to see how Boston does tonight to see what the effects of this are. But, again, there's been losses this year where I've been really concerned. This isn't one of those losses. Rays look tired. They've played a bunch of games in a row. I think it would be really good to give like Brandon Lau an off day tomorrow against the lefty, who we'll get into later. But again, not a loss where we're sounding the alarms. It's a normal mid-June loss, right? I think we could look back if the Rays take 3 or 4 and be like, okay, like you see the opportunities the Rays had. They missed out on them. The next 2 games, they capitalized on them. Let's hope that's what we're talking about the next 2 games. But let's talk about, we're going to talk about Zack Littell, and we're going to look ahead to how the Rays can bounce back right after this. This episode is brought to you by wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1-ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better-for-you unsaturated fats to keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, you guys know my favorite's the no-shell variety because it's the perfect grab-and-go snack. For me, I use it before I go lift. I use it was a quick, even like little morning thing before I got to go walk the dogs. So those are the perfect just grab and go. But again, they always have the in-show classic options if you guys like that classic crunch. So get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. This episode is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your brain and kind of wonder where all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. So if you guys are in the live, make sure you leave a like and comment. We'll be getting them right after we talk about Zack Littell. And, Zack Littell, what more can you ask for out of your fifth start? He does another quality start, 6 innings, 3 runs or less. That's a quality start. And that's all you can ask for for the Rays for your started pitching. Like, I thought Zack Littell was good. That the 6th inning was tough because, again, it was with 2 outs and the home run was with 2 outs. So all 3 of the runs that he gave up came with 2 outs, which, again, we talk about the gut punches that the Rays took in this one. Those were like the 2 out ones are tough to give those up, especially when the Orioles kind of stacked runs like they did in the 6th inning to kind of expand the lead a little bit more. So, yeah, I mean, I got nothing bad to say about Zack Littell. 3 strikeouts. You'd like that number to be a little bit higher, but he's a pitch to contact guy. He's not, that number isn't going to be super high, even though that is the least amount of strikeouts he's had against since the 15th against the Blue Jays. But it's not like he's striking out 10 guys an outing. It's 6 strikeouts, 4 strikeouts, 6 strikeouts, right? He's normally in that range. So I thought Zack Littell did everything you could ask out of him tonight. And anytime a Rays pitcher gives you a quality start going 6 innings, 3 runs or less, I expect the Rays to be competitive, if not win 80% of those games. And that's not an unfair thing to say. If your pitcher goes out and does his job, which Littell did today, the offense got to do a better job at cashing in on their opportunities, which I honestly think they will do. They did yesterday, and I honestly think they will do going forward. Like I said, I mean, this is not a loss where I'm overly concerned. The one thing that really sticks out to me is Yandy really needs to start hitting lefties. We already talked about that. And then, like, whenever Josh Lowe does well, I feel like the Rays do well, right? And maybe that's just me kind of, having like a knee-jerk reaction to things because it's not like entirely true. But for example, in the last 2 games against Boston, he was 0 for 8, and the Rays lost both of them. And the previous 3 games where the Rays won all 3, he had 4 hits combined with 2 RBIs. So, I mean, I know that's a super small sample size, but we know the run the Rays went on. They always show the graphic that since Josh Lowe came back, the Rays are X and X for the record, and it's really good. But so I think those 2 are kind of like the keys. Yandy is going to face a ton of left-handed pitching going forward because of where he's going to be positioned in the lineup. He's got to start hitting it better. So speaking of left-handed pitching, let's break down the game tomorrow as the Rays. This is a 4-game set against the Orioles. So the Rays will face Trevor Rogers. Trevor Rogers is a guy that the Orioles gave up a lot for to get out of Miami. He's been hurt for a lot of this year. So, I mean, in Miami, he was really good before he got traded to or maybe really good is a little bit of an overstatement, but he was an above average starting pitcher before he got traded to Baltimore. He had a 4 ERA, a 4.5 ERA, which is a fine kind of 4/5 starter. Since he's been with the Orioles, last year when he joined the Orioles in 4 starts, he had an over a 7 ERA. And so far, he only pitched in 1 game this season before getting hurt. And it was way back on May 24th, so almost a month at this point. And he was fantastic. He went 6 1/3, 2 hits, no runs, 5 strikeouts. So we know the Rays documented kind of struggles against left-handed pitchers. So it's going to be a game where we see Curtis Mead, and we haven't seen Curtis Mead start a game in, I can't even tell you how long since. Actually, I can't tell you how long because I looked at it before. It was the Saturday game against the Marlins where the Rays gave up 10 runs and they lost that crazy game 10-9 in extras, whatever, 10-8 in extras, whatever it was. That was the last time the Rays faced a lefty. So this is going to be kind of, brush up on the how to hit a lefty guidebook, which the Rays, there isn't really good at hitting lefties lately. Obviously, they couldn't be any worse considering how bad they were at hitting lefties to start the season. But, I fully expect the Rays to be able to get up hits on Rogers. And I don't know what his leash is going to be. He's coming off injury. You have to think probably 3 to 5 innings is what I guess. Any pitchers nowadays are super careful when they're coming off an injury. So, it's going to be interesting to see the lineup. I would expect in the outfield, you go Morel, Magnum, Cabby. I'll just Cabby and right, and then go Junior, Walls, Then you do Curtis Mead at second, and I'd still put Jonathan Aranda tomorrow at first. He's hit lefties pretty well, and then obviously Dan Jansen. And then you have Yandy at DH, and the starter will be Taj Bradley. Talking about a guy that needs a bounce back. That pretty desperately is Taj Bradley. If you look at his overline stats, it's not bad with a 4-5 with a 4.35 ERA, but we know the inconsistencies of Taj. And his past two outings, he gave up 7 earned against the Marlins and technically 0 earned against the Mets. But one of the reasons why I gave up 0 earned is one of those errors was his own error. So he did not pitch well against the Mets last time out, minus the first 2 innings. He was great the first 2 innings. Taj really needs a good start tomorrow. And I'm not telling him to go do what Pepio did and go 8 innings, 1 run. But I truly think Taj needs 6 innings, 2 runs or less, 5 innings, kind of 2 runs or less is that point. Against the Orioles last year, he pitched twice against them. One time he got shelled for 9 runs. I actually remember that game at Baltimore. Another time he went 5 innings and only gave up 1 run. So that's how he did against them last year and the year before. So Taj Bradley is 1-3 against the Orioles in his career, and he won his first start. So he's lost his last 3 starts to the Orioles, and he's given up 1 run, 3 runs, and 5 runs in those outings. So not bad against them. So again, need to bounce back tomorrow. I expect it to bounce back out of Taj Bradley. I expect to bounce back out of this offense. If they give another kind of lethargic effort like they did tonight, there's not a ton of energy. Not a ton of energy from the crowd. I thought yesterday the crowd was fantastic. You could feel it through the TV. Today, couldn't really feel it through the TV, right? It was just kind of one of those dog days game that you're going to get throughout the year, which baseball is 162 games, right? There are times like early in the season where we overreact because we started to notice a trend going with this offense, and even sometimes with the bullpen, and it's especially with the starting rotation. But the trend, these are the outlier games for the Rays now, where they only score 1 run, right? Where they give up 5 runs. These have been the outlier games. But if the Rays lose the next 2 to the Orioles, then we can start panicking a little bit. But overall, the Rays need to clean up a few things, and I think they'll be in a really good spot for tomorrow. But let's quickly look at some comments, and we'll go to Jack's takes first. He says this one wasn't for the lack of effort, but maybe pitching to contact experience is showing his downsides. There's definitely downsides. I mean, Zack Littell was going to have 22 home runs. Like there's definitely downsides to what Littell does. But you can't argue too much with 6 innings, 3 runs or less. Got some comments about Dickie V being at the game. Dickie V, I've actually met Dickie V. He's super nice. I mean, he's fantastic. As we go to Mike H, Sulcer came in the 8th, did well, took 3 batters in a row. Why did they bring him back in the 9th? Try to save their bullpen, especially with Rodriguez out. You don't want to throw Kelly because he's one of your better arms, but tomorrow you still have Fairbanks, Clevenger, Uceta, all ready to go. Your A bullpen locked and loaded. And Soto has pitched back-to-back games. He's one of their best left-handed relievers for Baltimore. He won't be available tomorrow. Bautista pitched today, who's probably the Orioles' best relief pitcher, coming back off Tommy John. So, so we'll see. I think the Rays have the bullpen advantage. So, again, Rays won tomorrow. They're in really good position for the rest of the homestand. I really think the next 2 games coming up for the Rays will be really, really big tests going forward. Unfortunately, we don't have time to get to more comments because I went a little too long in my rambling talking about how the Rays are going to bounce back, which I do think they will. And you guys can find out if they're going to bounce back tomorrow and then come join the postcast after to talk about it with all of us. So if you guys are watching the replay, make sure you leave a like and comment. If you guys are on the live, leave a like before we head out of here. So if you guys have joined, thank you for everyone for watching, and we will see you guys tomorrow night.